Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another of our webinar Wednesdays hosted by CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Bearden. I'm the director of the center and navigating a little bit with some issues here. There we go. Sorry for that late introduction there and letting you in a little bit late today. Brain isn't working as good as it used to. But again, welcome. We have a great program today. We have Cameron Bruce on talking about the SBIR program. It's a special week for America's Seed Fund. So when we talk about America's Seed Fund, the SBIR, we're talking about one and the same. We're talking about $3.9 billion of money put out by 12 federal agencies for innovation and technology projects that enough of them aren't happening in our region. So we're going to hopefully change that today and fix a couple of things that can get more innovation and technology funds in our slice of the Central California region. So what's up today? July 20th, 2022. Well, it's America's Seed Fund Week. And America's Seed Fund, the SBIR program, which is Small Business Innovation Research, a great grant program that is celebrating its 40 years in existence, of actually providing a lot of startup capital, non-diluted startup capital too, which is really important to local and more so national small businesses. We want more local small businesses that are actually accessing, but the last time I checked in our Central California region, we had a couple on the coast, and that was about it last year. So hopefully we're improving to get more out of the San Joaquin Valley, and that is the purpose of today, the purpose of us hiring experts such as our guest today, Cameron Bruce, who is an independent consultant of the SBDC. So it's America's Seed Fund Week, and we will look at our capital quarter, we'll look at SBIR, and we'll look at it locally, and we'll look at a few other programs that are happening. We will look at our economic corner, and we'll look at a lot of the things and economic news that is happening. One of the big things that came out recently was the median price of a home in the US. Yes, $416,000. I still cannot believe that. I can believe that in California, which it is much higher actually, but nationally up to 416,000. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. We'll have our marketing moment with our marketing maven, Maureen. We'll talk, bring in Cameron, and we'll talk SBIRs also, and how they might affect our CSU, BCEI, and SBDC. And that's it. That is an eye chart of acronyms right there. So it's Small Business Research Innovation Grants for our CSUB Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, some of the path that we see that where they're headed down, and some of the assistance that we can provide here at the Small Business Development Center to provide a guide for all those acronyms. And always your questions. And today we do have a poll. So let's pull up our poll today and let's see what we have. A couple of questions for today. And so what we have today is SBIR is our first question. So our first SBIR question of the day is going to be related to, I currently have a technology innovation business, or I have an idea for one. So maybe it's an idea, yes or no. Either you are in the technology or innovation sector, or maybe it's you have an idea for one. So when you get a chance, jump into that. And it's a simple yes or no. I have a technology business, or I have an idea. I have something that might be looming that really could be hanging out there that could maybe work. Maybe it's a friend. I'll take a friend right now. A friend, an acquaintance, a family member that maybe has an idea that would benefit potentially from this particular program. So we do have about 66% of you that have participated at this time. We're going to go ahead and close our first poll for the day and share the results. And the results are 25% of you, yes, have an innovative or technology related business, or you have an idea for one soon. So that's question number one. Thank you for participating in that. And we will stop. Move on to our next question. And our next question, a little bit of technical problems here. So our next question, as it allows me to stop sharing that poll, hopefully, is going to be the percentages. So now a little bit of a question and answer. So we have, what is the percentage of new businesses that can grow to 1 million in revenues? So basically, if you start a new business, you know, what are the percentage of businesses nationwide, historically, this is a historic number, that businesses that grow and can grow to $1 million. So a startup business that can grow to $1 million, is it 4%? Is it 13%, or is it 24% of new business starts, so new businesses that grow to $1 million in sales? So 1 million in sales or revenue, is it 4% of the businesses that start up? Is it 13%, or is it 24%? Our pop quiz version today is a little bit of first question about you, what you're doing in innovation and technology. The second one is how many percentage-wise small businesses grow to $1 million in revenue. So we will actually, with about, let's see, we've got a lot of you that have reported in. So nearly 100%. So 100%, thank you for getting that last one in. Thank you all for participating. And what we're going to do is now in the poll and share that with you. And the percentage of businesses, 69% of you thought it was 13%, 23% 4%, and 8% 24%. The correct answer of those businesses, and really what demonstrates how hard it is to start a small businesses and grow it, is only 4% of the businesses that start up grow. Now, I will say in defense of that number that a lot of businesses aren't intended or aren't projected or even wanting to start up and exceed $1 million. A small consulting business, that person doesn't want any employees, is never going to reach $1 million. So thank you for that. And we will move on to our final question, poll question of the day. So the poll question was, last night, the All-Star game was held in Los Angeles, the baseball All-Star game, for the first time in 42 years, which ironically was the uniform number, or the retired uniform number in all 30 major league teams, of Jackie Robinson. And Jackie Robinson was traded at the end of his career. He was traded and retired rather than to report to this team. Was it the Yankees? Was it the Giants? Or was it the Mets? So Jackie Robinson, the great Jackie Robinson, number 42, he was traded, and was traded to either the Yankees, the Giants, or the Mets. And upon being traded, he said, I think I'll just retire. So 3 choices: the Yankees, the Giants, and the Mets. Jackie Robinson, the great Jackie Robinson, traded, retired rather than to report to this team. The Yankees, the Giants, or the Mets. So we will pretty much got about 50% of you that are in right now. So, yeah, you know, I like 60%, but we're going to end the poll and move on. So with 50% of you on, 56% of you said the Giants, and that is correct. Being a lifelong Dodger and being traded to the rival Giants, he said, no, thank you. I think I'd rather retire. And then half of you had the Yankees and the Mets. So thank you for our whimsical question of the day. And it's time to move on. So with that, let's look at, first of all, we're celebrating America's Seed Fund Week, which is a 4-day weekly period, actually, of which there's a lot of opportunity to seed the future and connect entrepreneurs. We're not part of the official program, we're part of the unofficial program. So we're doing this as part of Webinar Wednesday for this week. Since the U.S. Small Business Administration is a big player and kind of overseer of that particular program. Before we get there, let's look at some of the other programs that are open and get a kind of a status. I do realize that we are having an issue with the chat today. So I apologize for that chat, and what we'll try to do is we'll try to get it opened up upon when we bring our guest speaker, Cameron, in. So we have the California Performing Arts Grant, which opened 2 weeks ago, which is open for nonprofit performing art groups. And this is out of the Office of the Small Business Advocate for the state of California. It is open. It is first come, first serve. If you know somebody who is maybe able to participate in this would be a great opportunity to do so, since it is first come, first serve. We'll try to get some more information in before the webinar is over in the chat. That's what we usually do. And we also provide information on the California Dream Fund. The California Dream Fund is throughout our Central California region. We're $800,000, most of that going to small businesses. I'd say the vast majority of it, well over 90% of it is going to small businesses, but $800,000 in either $5,000 or $10,000 increments to fund new business startups. You know the drill. You need to attend the training program. You need to have some one-on-one consulting with the SBDC. And you also need to actually write a business plan. So there's more information, or if you want more information, email us at sbdc@CSUB, or if you're interested, we are now looking at funding the next training cohort is actually starting in about 2 or 3 months in October. A possibility we might be able to get some going sooner than that, but there is a lot of demand. The State Small Business Credit Initiative is almost here, and we're going to have representatives from the iBank at the state of California, from GoBiz, and also the California Treasurer's Office on talking about their various pools of money and programs in that particular program. The Kern County Micro Grant Program is still open. It is still open, and actually has gone through a revision in the program to where the application has been revised, and also some of the interpretation and some of the guidelines provided by the state have been modified to make the process a little bit more simple. So if you have applied, hopefully these changes might benefit your application. The Mono County Grant and Forgivable Loan Program remains open. It remains open, and it is a program in Mono County. So you want to contact one of the Jeffs in Mono County. If you need information on that, you can send us an email. We'll provide it to you. It's either Jeff Simpson at Mono County Economic Development or Jeff Lucas, their consultant. Employee retention credit, the tax credit, closed almost 10 months ago, but you can still retroactively, if you didn't find out about it or want to go back and you actually qualify, you're eligible for the employee retention credit. You can go back and you can actually apply via the 941C or corrected quarterly tax return to the IRS. We recommend you talk to an accountant or your payroll service, who are both doing those in quite a bit these days. Also, the Cal Savers Mandatory Retirement Program, which is for employers of 5 employees or more. You're required to have signed up for that program as of 6/30. It is a program that they will be assessing fines and penalties, according to what I have heard. So you're going to want to get signed up for those particular programs. So let's look at our economic corner for today. I mentioned the median home price hits 416,000, not 412, but 416. We also are looking at economists who are now 50-50 split on a recession. So we're basically at the halfway point. Some people think we might already be in recession. A guy who is not in the news, well, he's in the news more often than anybody else, it seems like, is not the president of the United States. It's Elon Musk. And Elon Musk says we're already possibly in a recession. Technically, that'll be 2 quarters of negative economic growth. So we'll wait and see. We're looking at another 0.75% rate hike, and the Federal Reserve will be meeting relatively soon. And it is projected that they're going to hike interest rates by another 0.75%. So when they do that, then the banks that borrow from the Federal Reserve will be paying more money. And the banks really don't be paid. They're not the ones that pay more money. They pass it on to their customers, of course. So it'll be those that have variable rate products. They have maybe a variable home mortgage, credit card rates, maybe potentially even autos, other types of loans that'll be going up in value. Even the SBA guaranteed loan program, the 7A program that we talked about last week, is a variable loan program that adjusts interest rates quarterly, so it could be going up as well. So one of the concerns that's coming from some of the economists out there is that as the Federal Reserve tightens, by tightening, they're raising interest rate, which constricts economic growth because some projects are just not affordable anymore. Kind of like what we're seeing in the home market is you're seeing home sales actually go down because it's less affordable for people as interest rates rise. So that tightening of the economy to slow down the economy, to slow down inflation, some economists are worrying they're going to go too far. Some economists worry that they're a little late to the game as far as starting to get that grip on inflation. And their concern now is that they could go too far, and we're going to watch that. But it really, the last of our economic corner for today, our side of our economic relevant news for small businesses, is that all jobs that were cut in the pandemic are back. Yes, all jobs. We had the lowest unemployment rate in this country, I think historically in February 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and all those jobs are back. So obviously the economy's grown and more jobs have been produced, but all those jobs from 2020 are back. One of the key changes though is that the sectors have changed. There have been two industries that have been hit harder than any others, and those are the government sector, which is having a harder time replacing government workers, and also restaurants. Restaurants are having a very difficult time as they go and replace people that have left and have moved on to potentially maybe more career-oriented, maybe different jobs after being in food service for so long. So our Capital Corner, obviously SBIR is a hot topic of that today. Also, our Capital Summits are returning, and we're going to talk briefly on that. We gave you a little bit of an initiative on the state small business credit initiative, and we're going to be talking a lot about that soon. And we talked a little bit about the credit initiatives, but here's some news for you. Coming back, yes, coming soon are our Kern County and Eastern Sierra Capital Summits. Kind of a bellwether program that we do, half-day programs. In the past, we've done them here in Bakersfield and in Eastern Kern County and in the Eastern Sierra region. In the Eastern Sierra region, they usually switch back from Bishop to actually Mammoth Lakes on an annual basis. It'll be at Bishop this year. But our Kern County one is almost exclusively always here in downtown Bakersfield. We're probably not going to be doing an East Kern one this year, and that is because it's going to be both in person and online. So you'll have an option to attend either of these in person or online, the hybrid method that is kind of being used now. And it's going to be a showcase of where entrepreneurs can go to grow their businesses and have access to funding options there. We will have presenters that will share information on a variety of different loan programs. Usually we have a dozen or more programs. Oftentimes SBIR is discussed. And as a matter of fact, our speaker today, Cameron Bruce, has spoke at previous Capital Summits at the Doré Theater on the campus of CSU Bakersfield. And he also did an Eastern Sierra Capital Summit with us up in Mammoth Lakes back in 2017. So more information and dates coming soon, and we'll provide them here on Webinar Wednesday and through some of our other media channels. So in-person and online opportunities for the Eastern Sierra and the Kern Capital Summits. So, you know, we're going to kind of pass on this and get to our topic right now, get our chat fixed and get it going. Any questions that you have, you can throw into the question and answer box while we work on the chat. But our Kern County and our California, it's technically the California Micro Grant Program. It's our Kern County version. It's open for Kern County residents, the one that we work with. And it's for assistance. You know, call us here at the office. Iris is standing by to take your call, 654-2856. You can get free one-on-one consulting, and we encourage micro businesses to do that, to look at the bigger picture and to look at where you're going to grow your business and how you can particularly grow this business or even leverage the $2,500 into more capital in order to kind of grow the business. So a lot of people need permanent working capital in order to grow. The Kern version of the California Micro Grant Program does just that. We talked enough about the California Dream Fund. You know, these are some of the economic forecasts that the Federal Reserve came out with. I'm just going to leave it at, it's amazing how much they have modified them on a quarterly basis to where we have much higher inflation now, 4.3%, which the next 3-month report will be substantially higher since we are on a path toward close to 9% interest, or excuse me, 9% inflation. And we have seen also interest rates increase substantially, basically 2.5 points with another 3/4 of a point looming, and also some of the other key factors that they actually forecast on a quarterly basis. So we'll stay tuned with that. And Maureen, take it away for your marketing moment, please.
Okay, there we go. Let's see. Well, so I had a new client who signed up for, hang on, let me get this right. Here we go. She signed up for some marketing help, right? And something came up when I was working with her that I thought would be interesting for today. So she doesn't have a website. And one of the things that had happened in trying to get her certification and everything for what she does is she had to go through some training. And the trainer for this particular seminar she'd gone to talked to her about websites and making sure that they were ADA compliant. Now, you know, ADA, of course, ADA is Americans with Disabilities Act, right? So one of the reasons she hadn't put a website together, we were talking about that, is because she was afraid, they made her so scared she wasn't going to do it. She just thought she would have a lawsuit. There's, and this is what you're seeing here that I thought I'd show, is that up in Northern California with a lot of the wineries up there, there's a law firm based down in San Diego that's filing a lot of these suits. And they've targeted a lot of the Napa wineries. But you got to remember, it's deep pockets that they look for, right? Anyway, so in trying to find some stuff together to put together for her, because she was really concerned about that, I started doing a little bit of research on the ADA and websites, and it'll made my head spin on some of it. But I found something that I thought would be really cool for our Webinar Wednesday folks, is that if you decide that you want to try to make your website ADA compliant, which means if someone is blind, in this case, this attorney is blind or visually impaired, then you could potentially get a credit. I saw it in Forbes magazine. So it's online and I came up with this. It's a tax credit. And so here's what the eligibility is. Hang on a second here. So if you've incurred expenses in trying to make it ADA compliant, then you would qualify if you had gross receipts of $1 million or less, or fewer than 30 full-time employees in the preceding year. You can receive up to half of your eligible expenses, including costs associated with the website compliance, in the form of the credit. The expenses have to be between $250, I'm not kidding, between $250 and $10,000 for the taxable year. And as always, we do not give tax advice. You would want to check this with your accountant, bookkeeper, or tax specialist to confirm you have eligible expenses. Here's what that form looks like, the form 8826. And yes, I cut it in half because that was all white space down there. It's a pretty simple form, but it's got to be between $250 and $10,000, and you would get half as a tax credit. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is that, because I'm not kidding, when I looked at what some of the things are that you have to do, I went to the simplified form that showed everything, and it was pretty daunting. And this is among the things I sent to my client, was a link for a website called Fiverr. And yes, it's spelled like you see in the upper left-hand corner, Fiverr. I've had a lot of clients have used this for a lot of things, everything from logo designs. I mean, they're pretty inexpensive. People bid on what they want to do, what you need done, you put it out there. And so this is one where they actually had like 25 consultants, I don't remember what they call them, but 1099 type folks, where they do ADA compliant websites. So that is among, one of the resources available if you want to look at something like that, or, you can always check it out. It's got all kinds of good stuff on there. Anyway, that's what I've got.
Great. Well, maybe I should check them out, and I should check them out to see if, oh, that PowerPoint's gone. I should check them out to see if I could come up with some fancy dancy slides. So when my slides do come back after sharing, allows me to do that.
I bet you could find somebody on there.
Instead, I guess I'll just stick with these slides. It's beautiful.
There you go. Okay.
So anyway, there's some past, thank you, Maureen. There's some past YouTube recent topics that we have at our YouTube channel. You can go back and see virtually about, there's probably about 200 of our webinars in there out of the 237 or so. And that brings us to our special guest today. Our special guest today is Mr. Cameron Bruce. And Cameron is a consultant here, as I mentioned, at the SBDC. He's previously served at, I guess, in his major role, after doing his consulting that he's been doing now, as the Director of Strategic Operations and also the Director of Business Development at Naval Air Warfare Weapons Division for China Lake, Point Mugu, and San Nicolas Islands. Now, we usually just call it NOCWD, which is a great acronym. It's a wonderful acronym that allows, half of a word in it and then a WD for Naval Air Warfare Center Weapons Division. So Cameron has come to us after many years of service at China Lake. And a little interesting story on SBIRs in China Lake. We're working with a potential client on a project that I cannot talk about. And Cameron got me onto the China Lake Naval Air Weapons Station base there. And I got to go through actually 3 locked doors or gates to get back to where the scientists be. And then I needed to go to the restroom, and they told me I would need a chaperone. And I go, why would I need an escort? And they said, we don't refer to them as escorts, they're chaperones. So any important safety notes, if you ever make your way to Naval Air Station China Lake, NAS China Lake, go to the bathroom before you get there. So anyway, that's my story, Cameron. Take it away, please.
Hey, thanks, Kelly. Anytime you need a male escort, you just let me know. Can you see my screen okay?
It's loud and clear.
Okay, so Cameron Bruce, previously with the federal government, currently not with the federal government, so I can talk about this without getting the lawyers too excited. I will let you know for credibility and sourcing, I did steal some publicly available information to present to you, but I'm hoping I'm going to stack it in a way that it provides some meaning. The goal is to provide you some awareness of opportunity for you, your friends, and I'm going to try to tie it into one of the previous webinars given on July 6th by Cal State Bakersfield. So this slide is just to kind of whet your appetite. There's a lot of money out there. The Department of Defense, which I'm familiar with, 1.5 billion in 2019, 3+ billion total federal government. And Kelly said 3.9 billion. I just rounded up to 4 billion. Occasionally, even in government circles, that's a lot of money. A million here, a million there. But for a small business, it's a really good start. I went the wrong way. And here, before we get into the meat, I want to show you that it's just not the Department of Defense. There's 12 agencies that provide these kinds of things, including the USDA. And they have, and you'll see this term STTR, which is essentially a SBIR with a academic university thrown in there for good measure. But the programs essentially both provide money for creating research, and the federal government wants you to be able to commercialize it, and the Department of Defense wants to be able to use it for themselves. But if you can commercialize it, they're all the more happy, and they give you money and they don't own you. So that's one of the attractions. So in the on the July 6th presentation, the good director from the Cal State University Bakersfield Center for Enterprise and Innovation highlighted 5 areas which they're wanting to focus on. And they pulled that from a market assessment from the A Better Biz Bakersfield and Boundless Kern market assessment that performed them. That itself is a very interesting set of documentation, and it's really heartwarming to see a group of people coming together to kind of do a holistic approach to what needs to happen in Kern County and move it forward. So, well, I'm going to talk about predominantly about the Department of Defense, but realize there's money from other places. And here I'll do this again. I'm just saying that these 5 focus areas from CEI can probably be supported by more than one agency, and it's really based upon the ideas that you have and you present. So as we get into this, what is a small business as far as the federal government is concerned for this small business innovative research money? And essentially it's probably bigger than you would think. Less than 500 people, independently owned, you're not owned by somebody else, you're organized for profit, and lo and behold, you need to be based in the United States. They're not desiring to fund anymore development of things in other countries. And basically, you can partner with other folks, but you need to do the majority of the work. And all of the work is in the US. So this comes back to the small business innovation research. They're going to get something for the money, and what's it worth to you? Every agency is slightly different. However, there's multiple phases. Phase 1 is usually predominantly a paper study. You tell them what the feasibility of it is, how you're going to do it, and what you would do in next steps if you're funded. So this number for phase 1, just for putting this proposal together, is between 200,000 and 240,000. Now there is a lot of work once you get that. Anyways, and then if you show them and it's a compelling technology that they can use, they can fund you for phase 2, which can be on the order of $1 million or so, but which isn't too bad. Department of Energy shows 2 million, DoD shows about $1 million or 1.8. So that's enough to get the technology from a conception, which if you look at the bottom right-hand side, there's a thing called typical TRL, which is technology readiness levels that really came out of this NASA a long time ago, where 1 to 3 is just as an idea, it could happen. 2 to 5 says you might be able to do it in the lab. 4 to 7 says, hey, you can actually do something with it. You just need some refinement and you move forward. So the ideas you have, they need to be worth exploring, but they know that you won't always get all the way. But this is a way to get some money to do that. So tying it back to what does this mean to Kern County? If you look at the, and again, this is tied to research that other folks have done, trying to stitch together the communities. But if you have a topic area outside of these 5 areas, and it's a development, that don't limit yourself to these 5 areas is what I'm trying to say. And any questions you have, of course, reach out to Kelly and we can go over that. But my point was trying to say that Bakersfield has an entrepreneurial innovation group that's trying to do something. They're tied to some venture capitalists, or sometimes called vulture capitalists, because they want a part of the company for the money they give you. This is another set of funding sponsors that people within Kern County can explore without giving up equity in their organization. And I'm really just trying to show that it's directly applicable. Petroleum and renewable energy was identified. The Department of Energy is involved. Department of Defense is very concerned about this area. And I'll give you some examples. Aerospace, well, that's a no-brainer. No offense, but if you're in the Department of Defense, every group has something that flies. And then also, I know other organizations are really have defined this more as unmanned systems. So it could be ground systems and underwater systems. And also, don't forget that National Aeronautical and Space Agency is interested in this. Remote business services, that's just a web services, and you can do that with anything what comes to mind for me, logistics. Anytime you can, they call them supply chain. Commercially, the government calls it logistics, at least in the military side, just tracking parts. That's applicable to aircraft parts. It's also applicable, I'm sure, to petroleum parts, advanced manufacturing. And what I thought was interesting too is like agricultural technology. There's a major emphasis on, and I've seen other startups where how do you grow things using less water or targeted water, or how do you make farms more efficient? It seems a lot of times, when they're applying, the internet 2.0, it's really how do you use existing processes and make it more efficient so you increase the profit or a lower cost. Just a thought. So tying this back into just some examples based upon the CSUB, because we're related to CSUB. There was the Department of Defense put a $1.83 million investment into synthetic lubricant and hydraulic oil, which goes under the PRE investment. Same thing with shaft seals, which I'm sure could be applied to petroleum as well as to ships. The RBS software, I picked an example, and these are just examples of hundreds where they're just doing a logistics or supply chain aircraft component tracking systems. I would think anyone who leases bits and petroleum equipment to petroleum companies would be interested in the same kind of thing. And of course, aero, UAVs, quadcopters. And if you're in the news, you know that our friends in Ukraine are effectively using UAVs to protect themselves. Hopefully I don't offend any ethnic Russians there. So the question then becomes, what's your chance of getting a phase 1 award? I pulled this from the SBIR database, and it looks to be about 50%. Oh, wait, 20% for phase 1, and then over 50% for phase 2. So if you get selected for phase 1, there's a fairly good chance you'll get selected for phase 2. Now, just a real quick comment. Talking to someone who has awarded 30 million plus in phase 1, they said the majority of the people who aren't successful is more because they didn't pay attention to the details, and it's not based upon the technology. It's really the 40% of the business side of it, and that's something that the SBDC can help you with. This is an example of the web page where there currently is and the calls usually happen 3 times a year, sometimes 4, and you go in and a list of topics that they're interested in, at least with DoD. I think Kelly might point out other agencies. They may have a thing where, National Science Foundation, you come in and you pitch some ideas. If they like it, they'll say, come back and give us a proposal. And so it's a slightly different thing, but DoD usually says, these are the kinds of things we're interested in. Tell us what you can do. And then also just showing that there's national, it's just not DoD. And that's it for me. Hopefully you guys are still there.
We're still here.
Okay, thank you.
I just lost my background, but other than that.
Okay, it's
Hey, Cameron, a couple things that we can discuss now. Okay, so there are 11 different federal agencies. I know that you've worked closest with DoD, with the Department of Defense, and that is the largest by far. And also the Department of Energy are big, huge actual contributors as well. But of all the other agencies, let's try to name them. There's USDA. There is actually Human Services.
DHS, good around.
So just real quick, we were talking about DoDs and the open sourcing, because so much of the past of this program has been basically what the government agencies want is their R&D. But now they're now accepting ideas, and many of the agencies are accepting ideas and projects that are kind of pushed up to them. So, and I know you're familiar with the Air Force. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I don't, my past experience has shown that usually, I know the Air Force and Navy have, and the SOCOM have these special innovation centers where they're trying to get just private industry to do work for them. I will know that I'm not exactly sure what they're doing today, but I know in the past I've worked with inventors who've come to me and said, hey, you know, in my particular field at the time was infrared imaging, you know, cameras, digital cameras, and they would come up with ideas. Hey, we need, you know, think about have this idea or that idea, and then we'd forward that through our process, and those things would get funded. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to push. If you have a technology or an idea that you think would solve a problem that the military or the DoD or the U.S. government has, I think there are now opportunities to go in and pitch those to government sponsors. And even with the startup week this week, when I went in there, they had some specific times where you could either sign up or would present or provide your ideas, because the government realizes they don't know what's all out there. So it's really helpful for people to come educate them a little bit. I'm not sure that helps you, Kelly, but.
Of course. And the Air Force, what they were doing was they were actually soliciting pitches for people to come in and actually pitch, and they would give actually awards based on the pitches. And that seems to be more of a common theme, or at least a common opportunity for people. You know, we talked a little bit about some of the applicants that have over 900 SBIRs, and that's one of the big complaints of the program, is that it hasn't been opened enough to smaller individuals and smaller groups. And let's face it, you know, the personal computer, when it was invented around 1980, was not something that the government was asking for. It was something that was created in a garage in Silicon Valley. So there seems to be more opportunity and more openness toward this move toward open pitching, and actually movement coming up from entrepreneurs. Is that what you see a trend continuing?
I definitely see that, you know, and our mutual friend Derek has mentioned that to me before, where they're trying to get the pitch competitions, get the contracting folks to be within the legal constraints that they have, to spend more time on the pitch competitions, and then quickly make decisions to fund those kinds of things. I do see that continuing. I think it just has to, and I think the people in government also understand that.
Great. I hope you're seeing my screen right now.
I'm seeing you.
Well, that's not a good thing. My screen is much better than seeing me. So let me try to get my screen shared again correctly here. And what we're looking at now is we're looking at kind of the website that SBIR and STTR have. And there's a wealth of information when you go to the website, because there are awards history. So not only are the solicitation for the $3.9 billion over the next 12 months going to be shared at this website, but it also shows you past award winners and past projects that have actually been funded. So you can see what it kind of takes in order to, if you want to do a filter, and you can filter it by agency. So you have here the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Defense, obviously, and all the branches of the defense. I know when I think the number I heard, there's the Navy that has 25 of them that are apparently open right now. It seemed like the number when we were at China Lake, it used to be that China Lake alone did about 100 SBIRs a year. Is that correct?
I'm not quite sure the exact number we did, but I know that there was a lot of money available, and China Lake was associated with Naval Aviation, and they were trying to push more money through China Lake to meet those needs.
So beyond Department of Defense, and we see the Department of Education, we see the Department of Energy. Obviously, energy, as I mentioned, and defense around these neck of the woods are really popular. But there's also DOT for transportation, and EPA, and also NASA. NASA does a lot of them, along with the National Science Foundation. So an idea that someone has in any of these areas can renaissance into potential funding. You know, in Department of Agriculture, it could be something with ag tech. It can be something And USDA generally will do something with community services in areas, and they're very much lower tech than a lot of the things that we talk about. So there's a lot of opportunity. You'd mentioned the different phases, the first phase being phase one, to where you have to go phase one and you have to do a feasibility study over 8 months, and you can get up to $100,000 for a particular award. I think this screen I have now is showing a kind of a specific filter that it's kind of, I was looking for by county, but it didn't work out for me that way, to try to get Kern County information earlier. But let's look at one of these particular projects. Maybe that's there, and let's go to something a little different than defense. Let's go to agriculture. Obviously a key driver throughout the San Joaquin Valley, obviously a big Kern County either being number 1 or number 2 nationally in agriculture. So there's a lot of opportunity. But here you get into one right here. Here's a project that you forget that the U.S. Forest Service is part of the Department of Agriculture. And there can be some interesting things with fire land management. And so this particular project was a near real-time potential control and planning tool for that. This is a funded project. It was funded, I believe, phase 1. So they got to do a feasibility study on there. So you're just bringing the idea. You're bringing the idea and bringing a potential for how that might work. And then what happens is that the government selects it, or they don't select it, and then you spend the next 8 months going through and actually being paid to actually do the research and do the homework and to put the right people in place in order to try to get the phase 2. And I think you mentioned the phase 2 is very important, because phase 2 is where you get a substantially larger amount of money to build prototypes, to actually check the commercial aspect of that particular intellectual property or invention.
Yeah, Kelly, I think the key thing on this example you provide here, once you read it, you see it's really a lot of software development. So it's not like you need a large amount of equipment to do something like this. This is really looks more like a relational database and a graphic display with some analytics behind it. So the cost of entry, isn't that much on equipment. Of course, you need to have a background and an understanding of how to solve it, though.
Yeah, and you really kind of see where they go with SBIRs. They're giving away $3.9 billion nationally to solve problems. So what are the problems they're trying to save? Many of those are related to climate. This is related to, obviously, in the entire Western United States, a huge issue we have with wildfire as we're moving into the heart of wildfire season. And solutions and technology solutions and innovation solutions they can be part of the problem, or even less technical ideas can actually be used. It's interesting here, they have the DUNS number, which is required, of course, because you're doing government work. So a DUNS and SAM registration are a couple of the things that are going to be required. But you see some of the areas to where they really want to know more about it, and that's hub zones. Have you done much work with hub zone and hub zone individuals at your previous employer?
Well, I think Derek has, and I live in the hub zone right now. So, but I personally haven't gotten, mine was more based evaluating the technical, feasibility, and is it something worth the investment? When I was doing this a number of years ago, really not that long ago, we hadn't focused on that, but that of course would give you a good mark.
Yeah, so the key is going to be, if you're located in a hub zone, you're going to get bonus points, or there's going to be some type of coverage for that. And also they're looking at women and socially economic disadvantaged individuals to try to help provide more opportunities in that area. So that's one example that we had kind of to go through and to look at. But there's literally thousands and thousands. I believe in California alone last year, there were 39,000 awards. So, and this is just a small sample of a search when I did county of the projects that came up. You can search anything. Give me a good keyword to search right now, Cameron.
You could look up vehicle or unmanned vehicle.
Too late. I put missile in.
Yeah, put an I in there too.
Missile. Oh, did I spell missile wrong? I could do that.
Yeah, MISSILE. I will let you know, there's a lot of concern, there's a lot of desire to, over the last 40 years, the suppliers of the Department of Defense have consolidated. So there's a very, they like to diverse the supplier base. And when you talk about missiles, and if you talk about the Ukraine UAVs that are also, bombing things, there's an opportunity to do things better, quicker, faster, and cheaper. So advanced manufacturing, or even just having a company that doesn't have the large overhead of one of the major primes, that would be something competitive, I think.
I like this laser assisted mocking for PAC-3 missile radomes, which you probably maybe even understand what that is. I don't. But I like the fact that I misspelled missile, but I wasn't doing an official government grant and was awarded one when they misspelled missile.
Yeah.
Okay? I like that. And that
best
was
code.
SBIR phase 1 of 2011 through the Department of Defense, through the Defense Logistic Agency, DLA.
So that again is where you provide a part, cheaper or better quality. Logistics, the supply chain is huge for the government, particularly the weapon systems.
Okay, so there's more missiles that are probably, cruise missiles, and probably not too many people out there want to do something with missiles. But if we come down here, we're looking at, I think I saw either adhesives or lubricants somewhere. So you could have a new type of oil, or you could know of something that would work better in a particular application, and that could even be an SBIR. So one last search. Let's make it something simple, something that's a problem right now, and that is gasoline. Right? It's not a problem unless you have to pay for it yourself, right, Cameron? So here's an ultra-fast battery charger for electric vehicles. I find that interesting that comes up when I put in gasoline. But it's a phase 1 from last year from the National Science Foundation. Another one that came up, another one that looks kind of interesting that doesn't have too many fancy words that I could either mispronounce or misspell. Yeah, that one's not going to do it. Improved reactor and catalyst for light. Okay, those are too complicated. You'd think you get something a little easier. How about one last search for corn? And I'm not talking about the band that was from Bakersfield. I'm talking about the agricultural product. And of course, in the search, corn can figure out anywhere. But here's phase 1, edible water soluble corn Zion films for shelf life extension and improved safety of perishable foods.
Or how about the one above it, talking about how do you use data to improve farming? Satellite data, artificial intelligence, whatever that means, which is machine learning or something. And you sift through a lot of data that farmers collect or collected on farmers. Because if you have a John Deere tractor, John Deere's collecting a bunch of information on you. Hopefully you have access to that data. So how do you improve your farm operations with knowing all the sensor data that we have?
Yeah, so just tons of projects that have been funded, tons of information. It's pretty fascinating. And you can just go to the SBIR, STTR, America's Seed website that is funded by SBA or powered by SBA. So that's a little bit about that. Let's, if you have any questions for Cameron or otherwise, let's go to the question box and see if we have a couple things in there right now. When will the California Dream Program be available? Well, let's see. The California Dream Fund, you want to sign up now because it has been going on a couple of months. So you want to sign up. If you're in Kern or Mono County, send us an email. Maureen probably has it in the chat box by now, that she's got the chat box up and going. But it's going on now, and it is right now. If you signed up now, the earliest training class right now is in October. That could change, and there could be some added, but that's what's available for that right now. Are you able to consult in other counties? Well, you know what? There are SBDCs in every county. That's the great thing about the program. So, you know, we could put you in the area that you live in California. We could put you in with the SBDC in that area, and we could see how everything goes. If you needed something really specific and they didn't offer, then maybe we could have Cameron talk to you about the SBIR program and doing something to get an award-winning application for some of that grant funding. So going through the chat box, we'll see that you know, there's information on the California Micro Program that's here in Kern County, and also the California Dream Fund. There's some information right there. We also mentioned that we have some webinars that are a little kind of popular and current these days. You can go back and go into those. Also, the California Nonprofit Performing Arts Grant that we talked about. There's a website there that you can snag if you're interested in that. For any of the other the America Seed Fund live stream events this week, there is the website to go to in order to do that. And that's what is in our chat. Cameron, any final words?
Just to, hey, if you guys got an idea, it's definitely worth pursuing. Start early. Like Kelly said, you need to register in SAMS and have a DUNS number. But I think anything on that side, the SBDC can help you get through.
Yeah, even if it's an idea. I remember when we were coming back from China Lake once with our former California Energy Center manager at CSUB. I floated the idea. I said, hey, Big Al, I got an idea for an SBIR. How about a solar paneled submarine? You know? And I'm talking about one that gets solar panels, you know, 200 feet underwater. Now that would be an invention. It's going to happen.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. It'd probably be a thermal battery kind of thing or a wave glider, but I think you're onto something, Kelly. Don't say it too much. Someone else might patent it.
You know, I've had this idea for 3 or 4 years now, solar powered submarine that doesn't have to come up to the surface to recharge. You're vulnerable to surface.
You are.
You know, I might not be ever employed by the Navy, but I know that.
Thanks,
Okay.
Kelly.
So Cameron, thank you so much.
Thank you both.
We're done here for today. We'll be back next week. Next week, we will be back with our next webinar number 124, it looks like. Just to make sure of that. See? Yes, number 124, back here next Wednesday. So for Cameron Bruce, thanks for joining us, Cameron. Everybody have a great day out there, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.